Hi, everybody. Welcome to today's webinar where we're going to talk about our speed to value systems implementation proposition for a cloud-based ERP system. In specific, we're going to cover a full ERP implementation that our team at Control+M Solutions did for a consumer packaged goods client in Canada. While those of you on the phone might not be in the consumer goods market, our goal here is to show you that with careful planning, proven tools, and an amazing software package, a little bit of elbow grease, it truly is possible to do a complete systems replacement in under 90 days. Now, not everyone may want to go that quickly, and we understand that. We realize that the software implementation team is rarely the governor for the speed. The technical conversion part is the fairly easy part. We'll talk about that a bit later in the presentation. The speed factor is generally controlled by organizational change resistance and the team's resource capabilities. The great thing about today's story is that we didn't encounter any resistance from this client at all. This client was prepared, excited for change, and completely bought in to being a part of the change. In short, they were an ideal client, and their hard work led us to be able to replace their entire business operating system in only 75 days. We have had clients who intentionally took a year or more to convert. Clients in larger organizations with complex pre-existing systems and layers of hierarchical control. Those companies are usually very prepared for a conversion. They've done it before. They got strong training systems and good data. In a way, those are the more simple ones. Today, we're going to talk about the really exciting companies we get to assist, the companies that haven't been in business more than 10 years. They don't have hundreds of $1 million in sales, and they've maybe been running their business on Excel or a bunch of independent systems that were great as you started up, but they really weren't well enough connected to support the mature business that you either are now or that you want to be. To me, that's the most invigorating job that we ever get. Companies who are just getting off the ground, really ready to soar. So let's start with some introductions today. I'm Patti Nowak. I'm the owner of Control+M Solutions. I've been in manufacturing my entire career, starting off in cost accounting and then moving into IT. I was IT director for a multinational electronics firm who grew rapidly in the early 90s by acquisition. And as part of the acquisition team, my job was to fly into these new facilities and say, hi, I'm here from corporate IT to help you integrate, into our corporate business systems. Well, I wasn't there for that at all. I was there to shove a new system into companies where it didn't necessarily fit, onto people who were already upset and worried about the changes that new ownership would bring, and force fit a new system into their companies in a matter of weeks or months. As you can imagine, it really wasn't a very nice job or a nice way to put in a system. Went to my next job, and my boss one day said, hey, we're switching to a new cloud-based system, but it was 2007. I wanted to bolt, but I couldn't. But I'm glad I stayed, because not only did I learn that Plex by Rockwell was such a different implementation experience, it not only changed my tune on implementations, but I love the flexibility to the software and the implementation so much that I quit my job to do it for a living. From there, I started Control+M Solutions, a Plex-focused software specializing in speed-to-value implementations for small to medium-sized businesses. The focus of all our employees, a couple of whom you're going to meet today, they're also been previous Plex customers, is providing the tools that you need to make your company successful. We have 19 employees all over North America. We serve hundreds of happy clients. I'm joined today by Shannon Hadley and Ken Keller of the Control+M team, and Braeden, I'm going to let you help me pronounce your last name, from Leaf Infusions. So Shannon, would you like to introduce yourself? And when you're done, Ken, and then Braeden.
For sure. Thanks, Patti. So my name is Shannon Hadley. I've been a Plex user now for about 7 years. I think 4 years as a Plex admin and 3 here at Control+M for a project manager. My background is primarily in the aerospace industry, so definitely familiar with quality requirements. And I was such a big fan of Plex when we first got it as a user, and I enjoyed helping users so much that I actually decided to make a career out of it. So today I have these new opportunities to help Plex customers through, the entire journey of implementation, go live, and stabilization here as part of the Control+M team. This project was very exciting and challenging, combining food and beverage processes with manufacturing. And I'm just so happy to be here today to share this all with you. So thank you.
Thanks, Shannon. Ken?
Hi, everyone. My name is Ken Keller. I am the director of process manufacturing division at Control+M. I've been using Plex since 2004, so I'm kind of the old man of the group. But like Patti and Shannon, had a very similar experience. Started my career, I worked for Honda in the Honda supply chain a little over 20 years. And that was for I got my first exposure to Plex in 2004 with a Honda-owned Tier 1 supplier. Instantly kind of gravitated toward it and how it could help me personally and with my job responsibilities. When I saw the native interconnectivity of module to module, so kind of connecting purchasing with production and production with shipping and shipping with receiving. It really kind of all made sense to me and clicked. But the opportunity came about 12 years ago for me to begin my current role as a Flex partner consultant. And really, my sole goal is just to make sure that all of our clients have the same experience that I had in implementing Flex and getting some benefit immediately upon that implementation. So happy to be here.
Thanks, Ken. Braeden, would you like to introduce yourself?
Absolutely. I love to talk. Braeden Calyniuk, founder, owner, operator, CEO, Chief Everything Officer of Leaf Infusions, Inc. So I've been a Plex user for 5 months, and I won't jump into, kind of why we went with Plex yet, and what it's done for us. I know that's coming on later in the presentation, but I can't speak highly enough about Control+M, the entire team, the positive experience we had with Control+M. And in particular, I'd like to call out Shannon, who led our project. Kudos to Patti for putting two like-minded people together in Shannon and myself, but Shannon knocked it out of the park for us. And so, just wanted to say that before we jumped into the meat and potatoes of the presentation here.
Thanks, Braeden. Appreciate the kudos, and also want to make sure you give yourself a giant pat on the back, which we'll be doing throughout the presentation, because you were a very huge part of this. So, all right, so let's start learning about the project here. At Control+M, we have a wide range of consumer packaged good clients from a number of companies that you've probably heard of. Brand names like Pop Snacks, Jiffy Mix, Tofurky, along with many smaller companies whose names that you might never have heard of, but I think you probably know the products that they either make or co-pack. The experience of implementing MES or ERP for food, regardless of the manufacturing process itself, has some similarities. Whether you're making protein bars, ice cream, barbecue sauce, vape pens, or popcorn, there are similar things to consider. Very tight requirements for quality tracking and control, inventory expiry dates, lot management, batch management, government regulations, to name a few, along with the standard stuff that it takes to run a manufacturing plant, like customer satisfaction, financial performance. Cannabis, like all other consumer packaged goods, has all these requirements plus a few extras like excise stamps, taxes, and THC controls. So whether you're processing cannabis or other products or distilling, I'm confident that you've got tracking requirements as strict, if not stricter, than the companies that we're going to tell the story of today. But before we do, let's talk a little bit about the cloud-based ERP system that we put in. I assume that you're here because you already know at least a little bit about what Plex is, but just in case, Plex by Rockwell Automation is a cloud-based, flexible, and scalable software that has offerings that can range from simple QMS to MES for production and planning and quality, to complete ERP with human capital management, complete accounting, costing and financials, customer relationship management, tooling, maintenance, engineering, workflow, report development. I could go on and on. It's a cost-effective solution that has the capability of fitting companies as small as $5 million in annual revenue to those well over $1 billion. And as a matter of fact, we do have clients at both ends. There are multiple levels of security control available, including IP access and menu-based access. And in some screens, we even are able to lock down field-level controls. This security makes it simple to allow access to nearly everyone in your company, to have one business system and one source of the truth, knowing that access is completely controlled. If you want to know more about Plex, just let me know in the comments and I can reach out to get someone to show you a demo. All right, let's move on to our client. We first met Braeden Calyniuk from Leaf Infusions last December. Braeden, I will freely admit I took a lot of this right off your website. If you'd like to talk about, this next slide is really about you, and then the slide after your Even Cannabis product. Why don't you jump in?
absolutely. I can kind of take it away here. So,
Awesome.
So here at Leaf Infusions, we're a federally licensed cannabis producer in Canada. And so the focus of our organization is kind of two fronts. Well, I mean, first and foremost, we're totally focused on cannabis-infused products. We are not a cultivator. We don't grow any flower. So what we're kind of focused on are kind of the major product lines out there that you're going to see in the market for the infused products right now. So that is vapes, so vape cartridges, gummies, and topical products, so bath and beauty. So kind of when I stepped back and kind of looked at our business, yes, we're a cannabis company, but we're basically a glorified food, beverage, bath and beauty company at the end of the day. You know, just one of our ingredients that goes into our products happens to be cannabis. We have two different business models. One, we do private white label products. So people aspiring to build their own brands, people with brands in the market that don't have access to the the production lines we do, they'll come to us and we'll kind of take it end to end for them with their logo, for instance, on a bag or on a, you know, on a bag or, you know, a topical product as an example. But we also have our own brand out in our market, in the market, which we built out to be a national brand since September last year, which is, you know, exponentially pretty quick. Kind of what brought us to Plex was kind of the driving force internally here was we were on QuickBooks. We were on QuickBooks as a startup company. We were using a electronic batch record system called Elevated Signals at the time, which was more focused on cultivation facilities versus product manufacturing. As an example, we had no visibility over our inventory. You know, about 5 months ago, beyond me knowing how much sugar we had in our facility to make gummies, you know, I had to go downstairs and count it, right? You know, now I can kind of view it right on my computer live, which is phenomenal. And then the third component was we were just getting by with SharePoint for our QMS system. And so, you know, we had those three pieces of software, and kind of the driving force of what happened was the quality team came to me and they said, we can't use SharePoint anymore. We need a QMS. And then, you know, my CFO came to me and said, well, since we're having this discussion, we've outgrown QuickBooks, right? And so kind of when I looked at a new QMS system, you know, that the companies were charging, you know, $5,000 a month subscription, you know, to bump us up to a new, you know, the larger subscription of QuickBooks, we were looking at, you know, another $3,000 a month. And then when I looked at, you know, bringing in that third piece of electronic batch records, that was another $5,000. Well, suddenly as a smaller, a little bit past startup company, I was like, we're into this for $15,000 in subscriptions a month. This is ridiculous. And so anyway, that's kind of what drove us to Plex. I come from the tech world previously for about 10 years. So, I've worked for Microsoft. I've worked for a number of another ERP company called Infor. So I've been fairly tapped in as to kind of what's out there, but I had actually never heard of Plex before, and I got kind of pointed in that direction from the folks at Gardner, and got a demo, had some calls with Control+M, and was absolutely blown away. I do have to say, also my father is the past global chief information officer for PricewaterhouseCoopers, so he managed the rollout of software to over 82,000 employees globally. Both him and I are absolutely astounded by Plex. The ease of use, how quick our people were able to pick it up, how it specifically hits everything we needed it to do across all business lines, and just how it works. It is as advertised from the shop floor to the top floor. We're both, as tech folks, just absolutely blown away because the number of implementations I've seen with Dynamics, as an example, Microsoft Dynamics, that the number of customizations that need to happen out of the box to get it to where you needed it to be. I mean, I think pretty much, apart from one or two little nuances here, I would say, Shannon, correct me if I'm wrong, but we used a lot of the features out of Plex to get us to where we needed to be, and it works. It does exactly what we need it to do. So that all said, Health Canada is very focused on the regs and compliance. So a lot of what you would see in food and beverage, we have to do here too. So vendor qualification, we have to do lot traceability through all of our ingredients. The addition, when we create new products, we have to create our lot numbers. That lot inheritance needs to follow through right to the finished master cases, and so on. The shining light in all of this is, like I said before, we've got visibility over our inventory now. We can plan with MRP, PRP. We know what to order, when to order it. We're able to track all of our sales data in Plex as well, import our forecasts on a quarterly basis, and we're finally in a position as a business to build for stock versus build to make, which is huge for us. It's making everyone sleep better at night. Everybody's become way more focused on what needs to be done, and it's really put us in the driver's seat. On a flip note, our quality and compliance, I wouldn't say it's fully automated, but it's automated now. Our quality folks, just from a vendor qualification standpoint, right to the end of the master case, Plex has the ability to pull all of our manufacturing activities, which is a requirement for Health Canada. We're able to pull a summary of all of our check sheets that we built in for our operators. And the quality team is able to pull a customized certificate of analysis, which we must provide to all of the provinces when we deliver products. We weren't able to do that before. The final big thing is my production and operations team. They're simply one click and they can generate all of the forms they need to ship a product. So our chain of custody, our packaging slips, our individual provincial slips that we're required to provide to the provinces. You know, we had a smile on our face with regards to that, because it would take the individual about anywhere from 45 minutes to 90 minutes to get everything together to ship, because he was doing it manually on Excel, in Excel, and exporting to PDF. You know, he's down to about 5 minutes now to ship a product, which is unbelievable. So, you know, the quality team, vendor qualification, you know, storing all of that data, you know, vendor qualification down to 5 minutes. We used to, you know, when we would receive any sort of ingredients, packaging, cannabis as an example internally, our on hold area was chock-a-block full, because it would take individuals, you know, an hour per item to get it uploaded into our own system. Plex were literally, again, they're down to 5 to 7 minutes to check things in. You know, I walked down there yesterday, all of our ingredients are put away, all of our new packaging is put away. I was like, holy moly, like, this is fantastic. Everything is where it needs to be. So that's a little bit of what drove us to Plex, and that's, you know, some of the accomplishments that we've seen from the system so far.
I love it, Braeden. And I did have a section in here about the business improvements that we wanted to gain, and I think you've touched on all of them. One of them being the maturity of the QuickBooks product and the ability of it to show you your, you know, gross profit, your gross margin, etc. Like I mentioned before, you guys were really, really successful at running your manufacturing facility, but it took a little bit more manual effort than you needed to have it. And once we got things promoted to an automated production mentality, I think you started to really see some of those benefits. One of the other things I remembered you mentioning, Braeden, was one of the first calls we were on. You mentioned that you have customer-owned inventory that people will call to check on, you know, daily, and how much of that time it consumed of your staff. And now that visibility of just seeing it all the time, I've seen that at multiple other customers too. We had a washer manufacturer, one of my first implementations, and it would take them nearly a week to do their annual inventory. And once they were on Plex and they got their perpetual inventory, which we'll talk about in a minute, that time was gone. So it really went very, very quickly. Perpetual inventory means it's always correct. So now we know who our client is and what they need. How do we go about, you know, getting them what they need? Well, we proposed a complete integrated ERP system with a speed to value implementation that was focused on basic business processes. Take a sales order, review the demand, buy your raw materials, produce your goods, validate the quality, ship it out, collect our receivables, pay our payables, and then all the other required accounting and reporting. And we knew that we'd be able to leverage the power of the Plex data to make sure that we had all that required reporting for tax data as well. And we realized that with the additional data we were going to get from Plex, we'd need a different chart of accounts to convert that data into actionable information. And let's remember, Braeden gave us 75 days to do it. We started the project January 16th, I believe, and went live on April 1st. So we remain pretty confident because we have all the proven tools in our toolbox to be successful, and we've done this multiple times. And Braeden, we sure appreciate your faith in pulling that out.
So we did it.
Yeah, you did it. Before we move on to the solution, there's just a couple basics in Plex that are going to help you understand how to get the most out of this presentation. So inventory in Plex are stored in containers that are serialized. The size doesn't matter. I have customers who have a container that's a silo of flour or cornmeal, and others that are just little bags of sugar. The size doesn't matter, but the container serial number is critical for traceability. Inventory is only created in one of two ways: receiving or recording of production or WIP and finished goods. Inventory is depleted when it's used, scrapped, or shipped out. It's pretty simple. Gone are the days of negative inventory in your system. Negative inventory is not real, so therefore it can't be done in Plex. Whenever you use inventory in Plex, you'll get something that looks like this. It's a traceability tree. In the top, you can see that we have a received container here in gray, and at the bottom, you can see it's a container ready for shipment. Everywhere in between are all the containers that went into this finished goods for production for sale. So I mentioned in the slide before that you can track how inventory is used. This information stays with the container even after it's been shipped or scrapped. So therefore, every container in Plex has complete traceability. So now onto the meat and potatoes of this. I'd like to hand this off to Shannon Hadley. She was the project manager at Leaf Infusions to take you through their manufacturing process. So Shannon, take it away.
All right. So what Patty's showing here is just a high level process for production. So at the very beginning, we start with the extraction process. And for this process, we went with multi-outs. And the reason for this was because Braeden was producing anywhere from 1 to 4 different output parts, depending on which extraction process was being performed. So we had an actual produced item, we had heads and tails, and even waste. And waste also needed to be tracked in Plex with its own container or serial number. So this was added to Plex as a produced item in that multi-out process. And it was left in active inventory with a status of waste that gets automatically added to the rejection control screen and flagged for destruction, which occurs, I don't know, Braeden, once a month, every 2 weeks, something like that.
Yeah, typically it's once a month.
Okay. So at each one of those extraction steps that I'm showing there, each one of those steps are lot controlled and they're visible in the lot traceability, which Patti just showed, which Leaf calls batch records. And the lot numbers are generated at the first step in the process, and they're inherited through steps 1 through 4 in that extraction process. At each completed step, inspections are completed, samples are taken, and they're sent to the lab for analysis. And these returned results are inputted into Plex using the part lot attribute values. And at the final step of the extraction process, for example, the CBD isolate gets added to the inventory, and then it's able to be pulled into the production step for the gummy manufacturing after another inspection, of course. The gummy manufacturing process in Plex, we're using the Plex batch management with the variable BOM. And here, a new sequence of lot number gets generated with a constant for gum to be able to identify that it's a gummy lot number. And once this step is completed and inspection is completed, samples are split off, they're sent to a lab for analysis. The split of the sample then gets a move transaction to a location of lab analysis and a status of lab analysis and removed from active inventory. And once the lab analysis result comes back, that gets inputted into Plex on the remainder of the bulk as a part lot attribute inventory. And any waste that occurs also gets split off from the quantity recorded. Now, these part lot attribute values, they get inherited through the remainder of the process from bulk to bulk packaging and right to the excising to be able to produce a COA at ship time on the finished goods. The lot number is also inherited from bulk to bulk packaging to the excising through the entire process. Control plans are available on each of the steps. At each operation, actual multiple check sheets are completed. We have work center setup, scale verification, which is validated at every single production step, to QA verifications that the check sheets are completed correctly by the operator. And before each step can be completed and production recorded, QA verifies everything again. And the final step in each of the production process is a final validation and inspection from QA before those items can be pulled into the next job. So waste and scrap, according for Leaf, is actually different beasts. So scrapping product, for example, sugar, where the bag was torn and not usable, that would just be scrapped as source at the control panel like a regular scrap process. However, product involving the CBD or THC, it actually gets produced into a container. And in the case of the extraction process, that's part of the multi-out. or it gets split off after an initial recorded production, say in the gummy manufacturing. And that's to be able to properly physically destroy and record that destruction in Plex. And the destruction of these lots, weights, and containers are all fully tracked, and they can even add attachments and videos as needed. The bulk packaging uses simplified production, which involves adding the bulk gummies to a bag and then packed into an open master case. And all individual bags or units are produced into a single Plex container number. Like Patti was just showing, Plex doesn't care about the quantity, just the serial number in it. And the reason why we did this was to make it easier to be able to perform inspections. So for the inspection step of the bulk packaging, you could have, 400 actual units in one serial number. And the control panel is used to do these inspections at an inspection work center. So it was easier for quality to just pull in one container instead of, 50, 60, 200 master cases at a time. So we kept it simple throughout the manufacturing process. At the inspection work center, we also implemented a bin for bin process to keep the same serial number or container number from the production down to the inspection side. So it made it much easier. So then once an order comes in, so the bulk packaging, we use the simplified, and then the inspection is the bin for bin. And then the bulk packaging is then inventoried and can be sent to any customer. So once an order comes in, say from a province, for example, the bulk packaging is pulled in as source, and an excise tax stamp gets applied. And then that's when we actually label and seal and make a finished good unique to that customer. And because we produced everything into a single Plex container number, we're not going to ship just that single container number to the end user. So we actually used another screen, which is the pack container to boxes screen, to take that single container and split it into the right amount of bags or units, into the right amount of cases, onto a pallet to be able to correctly show on all the shipping paperwork to, like Braeden said, which Plex does all that in one single screen and makes it so much easier for his shipping department to be able to now do the shipping.
Shannon, it sounds like you picked about every possible production method in Plex. Great job selecting those. Let's hand it over to Ken to talk about lot control. Ken, let's hand it over to you.
All right. Well, thanks, Patti. Being a supplier of a cannabinoid into the market, it's very important for those in the cannabis market to track both cannabinoid potency and possible contaminants, as it is for most consumer packaged goods. So Plex offers Brennan alluded to this, a per lot attribute. So items in Plex are oftentimes called parts. Those parts or items can have certain characteristics based upon the inventory that Patti talked about. So when we have inventory of a particular item, that inventory can have a different lot number, and each lot number can have a different characteristic. Some of those characteristics in the case of cannabis can be, the potency of the THC or CBD in terms of microbial contaminants or other contaminants that need to be tracked, especially for waste. We can be tracking things, from pathogens to other microbial contaminants. All those based on an attribute, all those based on a lot, and based upon that laboratory analysis that Shannon talked about. When we produce and then ship to a laboratory for analysis, that analysis report comes back. In the case of Plex, we could then enter those results for that lot, and Plex can then do something dynamic with that information. You can put the lot on hold because it does or exceeds the tolerances that we've set for those particular attributes or characteristics. Or it can say, no, these are okay to ship, these are okay to produce. If it's okay to produce and it's okay to ship, then we can call upon that certificate analysis again shipping time to send that on to the customer so that they're receiving, not just the product, not just all the shipping paperwork, but a certificate of analysis stating the various attributes and characteristics of the lot. In the case of taxes, we can also generate reports based upon, in this case, the THC content. So for tax based upon the potency or the percentage of THC in an item, or just need to track it. The fact that we have added this into Plex as an attribute value, there's no more typing of the report, the text methods, and all the rest. This is a certificate analysis. All we have to do is add the values to Plex. Just puts it in the proper certificate analysis form. Then those actual values can be used to make sure that our inventory is okay, make sure that it's okay to ship, and in this case, even determine the excess tax that we're going to based on THC potency.
Thanks, Ken. And it's important to note that those lots are associated with the container serial numbers that we showed before, which is really another layer of transparency with respect to, you've got the traceability in there, you always know where it's going. I generally work with more discrete types of manufacturing, steel, plastics, cables. I'm not that on top of consumer packaged goods, so thank heaven for you too. Appreciate this stepping in. So now that we know about lot tracking, inventory control, and how production works, let's talk about how that production data that's generated really serves multiple purposes. So obviously that production data has the capability to do required operational reporting like OEE and SPC. One of the greatest powers of Plex is that that same data that's used for operational management is also used for planning, including estimated job or work order durations, production planning, including material capacity, labor, and even for costing. So you really do have a single source of the truth. Now this starts by defining reporting points, and if it were up to me, I would have reported every single process step on a manufacturing routing, but that's probably why I don't run a successful factory like you do. You know better, so we take my desire to see everything all the time and we measure it against your KPIs to see where we need to report to maintain inventory accuracy and get you the manufacturing KPIs and financial results that you need to see. It's wonderful walking into a management meeting and knowing that you have a single source of the truth. It makes the rest of your jobs a lot more clear. In fact, one of my favorite quotes from a client, GM, a client before our arrival, was actually not performing at their peak level. We got Plex in and optimized, and he said this. He said, Plex didn't solve my problems, it identified them so I could go fix them. So our goal is to help you identify any holes in your system with Plex. Now, did we have some challenges? Yes, we did. Like any project of any size, we did. Ordinarily, we would list organizational change management in here as one of the biggest challenges, but we just didn't see that at Leaf Infusion. If we do see it, we use several methods to resolve it. It's become easier over the past decade to handle organizational change resistance, mostly because of a younger workforce. They're always pushing us to have the latest and greatest tools. But those of you with an older workforce, we have to be a little bit more creative. We have to work around their resistance as well. And it's really about showing them how important their contributions are and how using Plex has the simplicity of a cell phone. If they can use their cell phone, they can use Plex. I think the biggest challenge we saw at Leaf Infusions was that they were a very lean staff and there was a lot of data entry required. But I'll hand it off to Braeden. He pulled that Band-Aid off in a hurry. By setting up an aggressive goal and then by using our tools to reverse engineer that successful go live, we were able to first see that the task ahead was achievable and then have the team challenge themselves to make it a success. Key to that first is to define two things. Number one is critical path. If you're not a certified project manager, that term may not be familiar, but what it is the longest sequence of activities that must be finished on time in order for the entire project to be complete. Some folks think of critical path as being just the business processes, and in some cases that might be, but in project management, the critical path is the path that will take the longest to complete. That way it gives us confidence in our due dates. If we don't define that from the start, we're going to find ourselves in a bind downstream. We deploy several tools to help us with that, including a planner that helps us identify how many hours it's going to take to get your data converted into Plex and how much training time you'll need. The second is definition of scope. There really was not any scope creep at Leaf Infusions, and Braeden, I'm gonna credit that to you and your father who've done this before. There were some additional scope desires that were tracked, and they made sense when they were added into the plan. When you get your team excited about the possibility of new software, they're going to come up with ideas. Track those ideas. Not only will tracking them help you see, or will track them publicly, help them see that you're listening, it's going to reinforce that you heard them, it's going to get them to contribute more, and it's going to set yourself up with a great plan for the future. So let's talk about speed. We've used these implementation techniques with all of our speed to value projects. As I mentioned, we've got clients from $5 million a year to over $1 billion revenue. And that means that not all projects can be speed to value. Some take longer and they're more complex. But speed to value relies on a few key points. Number one, we begin with a known template. Having worked with so many different food manufacturing industries, we have Plex template applications for many production methods. Second of all, we really do work as a team with our client. Nobody's a lone ranger. For example, we have CPAs on staff to handle accounting and costing, and engineers who understand manufacturing. We all work together. By eliminating egos at Control+M, we're doing what we are best at. We not only learn from one another, but when we're done, we have several folks on our staff who can help you in the event that, somebody takes a vacation. And as a matter of fact, on this project, within 3 weeks of the project finishing, Braeden was on vacation, and within 4 weeks, Shannon was on vacation. And I think that really speaks well to a very successful implementation. Next, we start with a work plan, detailed by week, to tell us what we're going to do, and we track homework within Plex. That way we know what's done and what's not done. It's not meant to be punitive. It's meant to very quickly identify where we have areas that we might need to shore up. We'll set a budget not only for financial resources, but also for personnel, because we don't want to push your folks so hard that they crack before go live. We need to take into consideration time off, company shutdowns, any time-based goals, for example, our old system is coming up for maintenance, etc. Beyond that, it's simply execution. Plan the work and work the plan, and you will succeed. So I wanted to bring up the end state here, with which, Braeden did a good job alluding to earlier. I'm going to bring in a quote from the Gartner Group. Typical ERP implementation failure is defined by projects that fail to implement on time, on budget, or fail to deliver the expected business benefits. Gartner is often cited as estimating that between 55 and 75% of all ERP projects fail to meet these objectives. That's certainly not the case for Control+M, and certainly not the case with Plex by Rockwell. And here comes Leaf Infusions, their end state. 75-day implementation, well within the adjusted scope and budget, and they're already seeing business goal improvements. Braeden, I feel like I don't know how many shipments you make a day, but you're saving easily multiple hours per day. And like I mentioned, you worked your tail off and took a very well-deserved vacation less than 3 weeks after go live. And when you run a business, taking a vacation is difficult at any time and nearly unheard of right after an implementation. I like to say putting in Plex is fairly painless. Braeden, I'd love to hear your thoughts on the level of work required now that you're on the other side.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not going to sugarcoat it. I mean, full transparency. It was a lot of hours, right? And there was a lot of hours thinking about it, and how best to kind of roll it out. But I think it all kind of, it started with how we wanted to organize our items and our item numbers, and it kind of just took flight from there. And having Shannon on our team, who had done this several times before, got here, kind of understood the environment, understood our processes after seeing it live, was able to put kind of 2 and 2 together of what happens in what room. We were just kind of batting ideas around with each other and just kind of going for it. I think I think, one of the strengths, and I mean, not to pump my own tires, but I think we got the 75-day implementation because I kind of took it on the chin and owned it kind of end to end myself, and was kind of the judge, jury, and executioner on how to roll it out. We don't have a huge bureaucratic process here. So it wasn't multiple meetings with multiple departments, trying to make sure that, everybody was happy, and everybody was had a good feeling of what they were going to get. I think I had a good heartbeat on what everybody wanted from the individual departments, and so that's why we were able to kind of speed this up tremendously. I think that, but going back to kind of what I was saying, there was a lot of midnight, up till midnight, have a 3 hour nap, up at 3 a.m., days, right? To kind of get us there. And then, there was a lot of weekends too. And again, bless Shannon's heart, for, you know, being flexible and being able to work around, a non-traditional working hours, right? We had a job to do and we got it done, right? And that was kind of the best thing about it.
Yep.
I think, from my team standpoint, they've got an excellent foundation of the system now. It's organized. They can see the data live. They know where to go to get things. And I think that's great as well. The post service support from Control+M has also been great, as Patti mentioned. Shannon and I went on vacation, which I think we kind of needed after a 75-day implementation. But we both went on vacation, and the nice thing for me was, Plex is really not overly complicated. Once the individuals have their favorites saved and they know the steps they need to go through to perform their tasks, it's pretty turnkey in that respect. So I was pretty comfortable kind of stepping away, and going on vacation and letting them kind of figure it out. And so, I mean, that was kind of a blessing in disguise too. So yeah, I mean, that's, I honestly can't speak highly enough about the software, and it just works, which is great. And, can't speak highly enough of Control+M for stepping in and getting us where we needed to be under a tight timeline.
Thanks, Braeden. We do love a challenge. And for those of you listeners out there, remember that Braeden selected the 75-day implementation. If we do a typical, 4 to 5 month implementation, it might not require all those stay up till midnights and take out your 3 hour nap. But you've been an amazing client, and you're one of the reasons we all love our jobs at Control+M, because we not only get to see the positive business outcomes, but the positive personal ones as well. And I have to believe that you're now in a position, just the idea that you're saying you can move from make to order to make to stock is such a huge paradigm shift for any company. We're very delighted to have been a small part of that change.
That's quite honestly the huge win here, right? It's completely changed the dynamic of how we're operating moving forward. And it's also changed the dynamic between all the groups here. Everybody's got a single source of truth moving forward.
I also love that in the implementation process, everyone takes the time to talk to one another, which ordinarily most companies don't have the capability to say, okay, let's stop for an hour a week and talk about how we work together. So that implementation process does get that natural collaboration moving. And especially for you, Braeden, we can move on to, what the future might hold. You put in an awful lot of Plex. Plex still has quite a few options out there. And from our perspective, we like to set up our clients not to be a long-term revenue stream, but to be a referenceable client. So when we leave, we like to have our clients be able to implement modules on their own if they want to. Now, guaranteed, we will be there if you need us. If you say to Shannon, hey, I want you to come in and put in, human resources, the visitor kiosks for me. I want the white glove treatment. We'll do that. Or we'll provide you with training documents, because once you know how to put in one Plex module, you can really put in many. Some are a little bit more complex, like problem control. There's specific forms that need to be set up that Ken and Shannon are both great at. And others are just so simple that you can put them in. There's really endless options there for you. So let's tie it all together. This slide is basically our success toolkit. It states our goals when we start any project, what we believe we need to achieve to help you get your business to the next step. We become part of your team, not only learning your business, but your culture. And we learn to help you find efficiencies and growth opportunities while we're implementing and training. And Braeden, I want to thank you from the bottom of my heart for joining us today. I know that you've got an awful lot going on in your life these days. Really do appreciate your time. And if we can get you any more information on Plex or on production of cannabis or any other, packaged consumer goods, please contact us. My email is up here, Patti@Control+M.Solutions. No .com, no .net, just solutions. So thank you very much, everyone, for your time today. I hope you have a wonderful day. Thanks, Braeden. Thanks,
Thanks,
Ken.
everybody.
Thanks, Shannon. Take care.
Thank you. Thank you.